The business of operations management is difficult, particularly in large enterprises like banking, insurance, and other services companies with teams of hundreds and thousands around the globe. Now add in recent pandemic forcing the workplace to change forever. Managers and employees are under immense pressure to get work done, while also finding ways to balance performance and well-being. The complexity is building, and it can be difficult to find the answers. This podcast, AO On Air, partnered with ActiveOps, is designed to help identify areas that will help employees, managers, and senior leaders find solutions to the challenges within operations management. The future of work will take all departments, such as HR, IT, and Ops, aligned along with a steady dose of innovation to succeed. We'll bring you topics, thought leadership, and simple plans to help lead your teams into the future of work. A hybrid work world that will learn from one another and truly act globally, breaking down the silos of older management models for new ways of working. Welcome to the journey. Now let's begin.
Hello, and thank you for joining. My name is Michael Cubs, and this is AO On Air. This is a podcast sponsored by ActiveOps, and we appreciate you watching and viewing our episodes. Today, I'm visiting with Elliott Tiernan, who is the global head of pre-sales at ActiveOps, and we're going to talk about really the manager in the middle of what all the work that has to happen and all the results that have to be reported. There's always managers in the middle that are somewhere just managing the tasks that go with that. That means labor, that means work, that means reporting, that means a lot of things. And so what we'd like to talk about today is really we've on previous episodes, we've talked about management process automation. So let's dig in a little bit to that. Elliott, welcome.
Thank you, Michael.
And you're in Texas, so
I'm back in Texas. First time in 2 years. I'm full of barbecue. Already, thanks to Carla. So yeah, great to be back.
Excellent. It's good to have you here personally too, because it's just better to talk sometimes. Face to face. Yeah. So let's talk about that. So when we think about big service operations, we talk about the massive employees, the work from home, the hybrid work. There's all kinds of elements going. And somewhere in there is a manager that has to make sure that work's getting done, and then they have to report up that work has been done and manage quality and all those things. So it's a challenging job.
Yeah, it's always been a challenge, and it always it's something that's worth investing time in because it's time well spent to do. But we've always said that operations is a tough job, and it's not gotten easier. With, as you say, people working in different places, more flexible sort of patterns that people need to encounter. And, I think our role in life has always been, how do we make things easier for a manager to perform well, for the team to perform well and to achieve the results that, are within the capability of that team.
Yeah, and you were a manager before you joined ActiveOps, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was in operations for a number of years in various different guises. And, when I say we know how tough it is, we know how tough it is. It's a really rewarding job and career to be in. And you get some wonderful highs in there. But it is a tough job. Yeah. And being a tough job, you need tools, data, all that sort of stuff to do well.
And the typical tool is probably a spreadsheet, but
yeah, and there's nothing wrong with a spreadsheet. I'd say, I spend more time than I pretty care to admit with various spreadsheets, but more and more now, the people like myself who like that sort of stuff, we've got a whole bunch of other tools to play with now. Yeah, and it's a really exciting time to be in industry, to be in operations with the sort of capabilities that we're seeing emerging with various technologies. Some of that we'll touch on today. It's quite a dynamic environment.
Yeah. So let's talk about the manager's role and kind of management process automation as a concept. Automation has come a long way in RPA, and people were talking about automating tasks, and that's more about the individual task. And now we're talking about providing automations at a different level for a different purpose. And that's kind of where management process automation is kind of starting, right? Or has evolved?
I think the RPA point is a really interesting one because we and everyone else is very excited about RPA. It's still a really exciting thing. And we spent a lot of time working with that sort of data and primarily thinking of, how do we represent what a robot's doing in our software. So when we're looking at the resource of an organization, you've got humans, you've got robots. What do you do that? And we did, we played a little bit of RPA ourselves. We were using that sort of technology to, configure our databases and learn how to use it for two reasons. One, our clients are using it, and it's really interesting to know, but also to try and explore, how can you make some of the process of doing what we do with companies, which is management, operations management. How do we make some of that a little bit slicker? So we've played with RPA, but now as time moves on, there are other technologies that are coming through. But some of that learning of what RPA can do, you see more and more of that sort of embedded within companies' products because things like APIs, for example. So we've our new product, Control IQ, which is built on APIs, that opens up a whole new sweet shop of things that I like to dive into, and operations people like to dive into.
Well, let's start there. So APIs is one of them, but it's this kind of data acquisition strategies, right? Because in order to automate things, you have to have the right data at the right time and things like that. So why don't we start there with maybe APIs and then move on to things like Collector, which may be an automated way of doing things.
Absolutely. So that's a good point. So you've got to get the data first, right? And there's various ways of obtaining data, and there's a range of sort of options that we offer in there to get data into our products. One of them is, as you say, APIs. So you could be processing on one third-party application, you press a button, and that data magically appears in our software to help you plan, because you can see the completed volumes of work. But it also it opens up another world of possibilities of connecting together systems and data. So if we wanted to take information on the forthcoming work forecasts, as we say, we could take that into our tool from another system. We can take in what the holiday pattern's going to be, because we put it up to another system over there. And so that's a big part of it. But then also the activities that we perform in our tools, you can automate a lot of that as well. So managers create plans and create forecasts in our software, but you could do that via an API and do that for a much broader number of plans if you wanted to. And that sort of capability, we are finding our customers now starting to explore, which is really exciting. And it's exciting for us as well. We used to say, we're ops people, but we've got software as well. We're now ops people that have got some really cool software and are learning a lot more about this sort of stuff and how do you put it to very good use. And APIs are a big part of that.
And it's interesting because when you get into the debate of monitoring, which is a hot topic, it can be viewed very poorly, and it all comes down to what the manager does with the data, not necessarily the fact that the monitor, because companies already get that data. Whether what they do with it is how it becomes good or bad. But what's interesting about the differentiation of monitoring is not just about what you're doing on the keyboard, but it's about the output, right? And so when you think about outputs, that puts it in a different light, because that's really what we're paid to do, right?
No, absolutely, and we talk a lot about outcomes and getting things done, and I think that's as pertinent in the operation itself. So what we want to do is achieve things as human beings and as organisations, and over time, we've all been through continuous improvement programs, and that never stops. And you always want to do it better, right? And that's no different when you think about the process of management as well, because the outcome of the process of management is that we've got our plans achieved, we've got good performance from our teams, we're looking for the next incremental level of improvement from that data, and that's the really, really good stuff. But there's a lot of what could be considered turning the handle and preparing and configuring to get that output. And although it's essential to be done, you might say, well, actually, is it better to get the machine to do that a lot more, and then we can concentrate on that output and achieving that output rather than turning the wheel every time to generate it.
Right, and the same would be said for the manager getting the results of the work done, right? So they shouldn't have to do a manual report. The employee shouldn't have to do a manual report. So when you talk about APIs, what's interesting to me when I've talked to some of our customers, they usually have a system of record, a claim system, whatever financial system, but that's not where people work 100%. So this API strategy is important to get a multitude of inputs from different systems, right?
And use that data to inform richer understanding, and then to drive action out of it. There's nothing worse, I think, than mindlessly capturing data that you're not really sure what you're doing it for, and it's there. And it might be useful, in 6 months' time, when you get some process improvement guy come along and look at that and use that data. But if you can combine all these sort of rich sources of data together and turn it into information, that's where it gets really exciting.
Yeah, those insights. Yeah, that's interesting. So APIs are one avenue to acquire data.
Yep.
ActiveOps last year launched Collector as well as another opportunity to capture data.
Yep.
Maybe you could share a little bit about that.
I love Collector. I think it's really, really cool. And there are some similarities with Collector to what we're saying about RPA. And the main sort of similarity is that, obviously it's automated. We can configure our application to understand where you are in a third-party application, down to which screen you're in and which events you carry out in that screen. And by that I mean which buttons you press. And quite often, a lot of our clients, although they're working on systems, they can't necessarily get that data out to tell them what they want to know, convert that into volumes of things that they're producing, or convert that into how productive are we, where's the time going, etc. So with the Collector, we can automate that and do it in the background and know where you are when you've carried out a particular activity, purely to generate the count of those activities that we can then feed into the data lake, if you like, of all the other sources that we've got, to tell us how busy we are, and more importantly, how busy we expect we're going to be next week, next month, and turn that into a plan that we then measure and manage against and achieve that outcome of performance that we're looking for as managers. Yeah,
and maybe that's a good transition. So we talk about data acquisition a little bit, and now moving into kind of the management and forecasting and planning. There's also been some innovations this year around automating some of that as well, I think.
Yeah, and again, with the APIs that are in there, you can generate those plans, from some code, and it just happens.
Yeah.
What the tightrope I think we always walk with this stuff is that what you don't want to do is divorce the brain from the data. So if everything was completely automated all the time, and we didn't use that and think about it, what we're generating there, we might miss a trick. Yeah. So although a lot of the handle turning can be automated and taken out, you still want to keep that eye on what's really going on, and also not forget that a big chunk of what our clients are doing, a really important thing they're doing, is managing people. And using that data. It's not all about numbers. There are people out doing the work. So, but if we can take some of that handle turning away and free up more of that time to look at what it's telling us and take good action on the back of that, and part of that developing our staff, and particularly in these times, looking out for well-being, etc. That's a good place to look for.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's removing tasks to enable a better outcome, and the better outcome is about the well-being of the employees, the retention of the employees, which is really challenging.
More importantly now than ever, right?
Yeah.
And perhaps that's not true. Actually, it's not more important now than ever. I think we're just all a lot more aware of it. Than perhaps we would have been previously, which is a really good thing.
Yeah, it's interesting, and the complexity of the work is. Well, the complexity of the work is the same, but the complexity of where people are doing the work maybe has changed, and which requires another set of data, right? Who works where and when, and are they productive in those environments?
Yeah, and making sense of all that is quite a challenge, because sometimes the opposite can be true. It's not necessarily I don't have the data; I can have too much, and data without context is pretty meaningless, right? So you putting that in a form that informs you and helps you make choices and decisions is part of the the reason why we exist.
Yes.
To present that in a way that helps you understand what's going on and take action.
Yeah. And there's a methodology around what good looks like. If you get this data, what do you do with that?
And a philosophy as well. Why are we approaching things in a certain way as ActiveOps when we talk about the method?
Yeah.
The method's very close to our hearts because we firmly believe that if you are in an environment that's better planned and more informed, you can take the stress out of operations, not just for the staff members, but for the managers as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but if I sit down and work out what I'm doing next, I tend to feel like I'm a bit more relaxed about things because I'm sort of in control. It might not be that everything I thought about happens, but at least I've got a bit of a game plan to go after things with.
Yeah. Plan your dive and dive your plan kind of thing.
Exactly.
So and that's interesting. And the automations coming or already delivered are reducing the time you're prepared to make the plan. But
and sort of moving you up that sort of knowledge tree, if you like. So, and you mentioned advancements that we've made. Features such as the loading board that was released last year as well. That's made our whole sort of process of balancing out resources and assessing the pluses and minuses of capacity demand a lot more automated, a lot more visible and easier to understand in one place within the application, which is a great advancement.
Which, if you think about the challenge with the Great Resignation or the Great Transformation, whatever acronym people are using today about what's happening in the labor force, but that planning and understanding that resource capabilities is huge right now because employees can on a dime decide they want to work for another company and they don't have to even leave their home office, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we've all been stuck in home offices for a long time, right?
Yeah,
Think people might want to leave those home offices. We said right at the start of this that management of operations is a tough gig.
And so what would an automated loading board? Just what would that improve? I mean, is it time that the manager spends, or is it overall balance of the capacity? What?
Well, I think it's two things. It's partly time to spend freed up because you're getting to visibility quicker than before. But it's also informing better decisions.
Yeah.
Because what we're looking to do is to say, well, look, we've got valuable resources, be those robot resources, be those human resources, and we need to make the best use of those to achieve an outcome. So anything we can do to make sure that we can smooth out the peaks and troughs of capacity and demand, take the pressure out, because what we don't want to be doing is overstretching in one area, which is stressful and could lead to poor quality outcomes. Or have a lack of work in another area, which again is stressful.
Yeah.
If you've not got enough to do, that can be just as bad as being overrun with work.
Yeah, exactly. So we've talked about data. Let's get to another hot topic: AI, ML type of stuff. So we have a lot of data. You can have too much data, as you mentioned earlier. But where can AI and ML kind of apply itself to improving operations?
I think that's a fantastic question, and I think we're still exploring around that stuff because what do you want artificial intelligence to do is to probably spot things that you don't spot with the human brain, and take all that data and make recommendations or even actions to take actions based off of what you would consider to be the right thing and things you want to do and to learn from that. So the really exciting thing for us is that we've got lots of data, and we've got lots of data coming from various different sources that we can pull together and across our different tool sets as well. And we're looking at various ways of using AI from it could be just determining what the right standard time, as we call it, how long does a piece of work take, and maybe spotting where there are differences in different types of work, and therefore we can delineate those tasks a little bit better. And I think where things sort of naturally go as you get more into this stuff is the artificial intelligence learning and thinking, and then saying, well, actually, this is a suggested action that you might take because I think that's going to generate you the best outcome.
Right.
And as we move down the track, taking into account the skills of individuals, how skills deteriorate over time, spotting those sort of patterns, and it might be, well, actually, we can see that a good intervention and a retraining should occur at this interval for this particular type of work. Or you might want to think about cross-skilling this particular person in this type of work because they seem to be more attuned to it, or this group of people seem to be more attuned to it. There's lots of stuff really in there to get to.
I think that's interesting. I hadn't even thought about the applications of helping managers. The intervention that you mentioned there, that's quite stunning, actually, if you think about just getting a hint that says this person needs some coaching here.
Yeah, and sort of spotting what you're doing as well. I don't know whether you've noticed, but if you use Excel a lot, and I still do, I still play around with Excel, spinning data around, it starts to anticipate what you might want to do. Yeah, and that's really, really smart. So going to get a bit geeky here, but if you're trying to, so you've got a field in Excel and it's got first name, last name in that same field, and you just want the first names or you just want last names. If you go into Excel and type the first name of the first row, and say it's John, and then go type Elliott on the next one, it will just fill in the rest of the stuff for you. Yeah, and that's quite a simple application of AI. But what it's doing, it's learned what I'm probably doing by what I've just done and what lots of people do, and then it said, well, actually, do you want me to make your life easier? And I'll just do all that for you.
Yeah,
thank you very much. Yeah, and that's the sort of thing that you need to be on the watch out for AI, using it in quite simple ways, I think, to start with, and then getting more complex as we learn more. And the AI learns more.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We probably all want to jump to the conclusion.
We all want it to sort of manage our lives, and we just sit around on a Sunday.
Yeah, but there's a lot of little spots along the way. Yeah, I don't know if you've read Atomic Habits, but it's talking about little changes that make a difference to a big change. I'm going
to put that on my reading list.
Yeah,
because I've got a plane ride as well.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So with AI and ML, if you're a manager of an operation and you're sitting here thinking about how is my year going to be less stressful? How can I keep my employees, coach them better? I mean, what would you recommend? Where would they start?
I think probably taking into account what they already have, okay, in terms of sources of information and data.
Yeah.
And so if we go into a new client or an existing client, we'll be looking to make their lives easier. And we talked before about there are lots of sources of data out there, but sometimes they're just not expressed in the right way, or there's too much to wade through to make sense of it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we will always look to do is to say, well, actually, what are the key things that we need to understand without sort of trying to boil the ocean, and how can we present that in a much simpler way to help you do your job, and give you the visibility that you need. Because being informed is half the battle, right? So if I can see, then I can make decisions.
Right. Yeah, and having sight is something that the pandemic has changed.
Yeah, absolutely. And we said before about one of the key challenges that everybody's got at the moment is because of the changing nature of work and where people are, understanding what's going on with my team at any given point in time is tougher, but probably even more important now than it's ever been.
Yeah.
So getting that visibility from data, despite the fact that our employees are in remote locations or they're working shifted patterns or whatever it may be, is it's probably fundamental, I think, going into next year as we continue in this vein.
Yeah. So what's ahead? Automated surfboards that go through cubicle farms?
Well, maybe a snowboard, automated snowboard. I probably need one of those right now. I'm getting too old to jump on a snowboard.
Yeah, just don't fall.
No. I probably will actually every time. But
anything else that we didn't cover? I mean, I think that it's fascinating that we're talking about automations for the management layer, which most companies don't do, right? It's about the employees or the executives, and it's an interesting opportunity to actually make big change, with little improvements here and there, right?
Well, and just in terms of what's next, really, I think for us, and it's continuing to sort of learn, what data can do for us and what automation can do for us.
Yeah.
And building those pictures out as we go through the year. So as I said before, it's quite an exciting time. We've got a new toolkit and a sweet shop of things that we can play with.
Yeah.
And there are more ideas than there is time in a day, at times. And that's a really exciting place to be, I think.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you for joining me in person. Hopefully you'll be
welcome.
back soon.
Yeah, hopefully.
Or I'll be back over there sometime. But but enjoyed the conversation. You had your first U.S. hockey game. Any observations about that?
Very different than that we were talking before. I was expecting the organ, but you're telling me that's Canadian, right? They do it in Canada rather than here. But no, it was great last night. What I was saying to you before, I really liked was the way they engaged the crowd and the audience, and everyone's there with the banners and doing dances and that sort of thing. So if I wasn't so jet lagged, I think I may have got up and thrown a few shapes.
Yeah, there you go.
The building. That'll be next time.
As long as you're not on the kiss cam.
No, I was a bit worried about that one.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. And for everybody watching, we appreciate you joining in. And as always, you can go to activeops.com and check out our resource hub, where you'll find white papers, videos, all you need to learn about management process automation, workforce optimization, and all of the solutions we have. Thanks again.
At ActiveOps, we call it Management Process Automation, or MPA. MPA helps managers make better decisions by providing a consistent, easy-to-understand view of capacity and productivity. MPA does the hard work of consolidating information, forecasting and planning, and even gives you visibility of skills and capabilities across your enterprise. Your managers can make decisions based on a complete picture of their operations and then get back to leading. As work progresses, MPA helps managers spot problems early and deal with them proactively, celebrate successes properly, and match resource to workload in real time. By making managers more effective, MPA reduces operational costs. Best of all, the right MPA tools make it possible to deliver all these benefits across global enterprises with thousands of employees. Solutions like Workware Plus from ActiveOps. Workware Plus builds on our 20 years of experience supporting service operations to give you a 360-degree view of your operations, helping you turn operations management from a guessing game into a game-changing source of efficiency and value. Employees are empowered to manage their days and weeks feeling accomplished, confident, and able to balance work and personal life. Wherever your organisation or customers live and work, ActiveOps is ready to help you deliver world-class service and employee engagement to help your company thrive. ActiveOps. See further, know more, move faster.